Welcome to Recogs, the inventory success podcast where we discuss how the top operators source, manufacture, finance, and sell their inventory in order to create successful businesses. I'm your host, Mike Gelb. I'm the community manager here at MFD. MFD is the inventory success platform for consumer and B2B companies. When we say inventory success, we mean that we can help manufacture, we can help finance, and we can help distribute inventory across 20 categories. If you're looking to learn more, check out manufacturer.com. We don't just also produce content that I hope is helpful, like this episode. We also produce events, helping to bring together the consumer community around the country. Check us out at manufacturer.com/events. Our guest today is Kathrin Henon, who is the founder and CEO of Planet Bake. Planet Bake produces sugar-free, vegan, and gluten-free donuts. We discuss why she founded Planet Bake, how she expanded into retail, some of the complexities when it comes to manufacturing donuts that are gluten-free and are also vegan as well, the manufacturing complexities when you're trying to manufacture a donut that's sugar-free, vegan, and gluten-free, how she approaches her channel strategy, and as well as what percentage of her business is in retail versus D2C and why that's so, and how also she thinks about different formats and pricing. Without further ado, here's Kathrin. Kathrin, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
Great. How are you doing, Mike?
Oh, doing fantastic. So I would love to start at the beginning. What was the insight or aha moment that led you to founding Planet Baked?
So the big aha moment was early pandemic. I was looking for a vegan and sugar-free dessert, and I couldn't find anything out there on the market. So, I went into my own kitchen. I did a lot of research, product development, a lot of testing, A, B, C, D, as you can only imagine. And with the high diabetes rates in the United States, I basically chose all my ingredients very specifically for the purpose to help with lowering of blood sugar.
Wow. So all due to help lowering blood sugar. That's incredible. Was it difficult? Well, talk me through a little bit about the process of creating vegan desserts. And how you approach like iterating on the product itself. How did you know, for example, that you got the product to a point where, okay, this might be ready to actually take to a co-man, or this might be ready to, or this is final, or I've done it. This is the final ingredient list and the final version of these product assortments.
Yeah, so at first it was really all about researching the ingredients and really finding what was needed in regards to a nutritional perspective, because I didn't want this to be any unhealthy product again, like we see so many in the market. I really wanted this to be very special and very, very considerate around reducing sugar on a daily nutrition. So it took many iterations. It actually took me 9 months to develop the product. So when you're thinking about early testings, I used product like Just Egg, for example, right? And it was an amazing product, but it was not scalable because this Just Egg is just so expensive when you purchase it, even on a wholesale price level, where it was not usable. So I knew I needed to go back in and find other ingredients that can replace and create that same effect. So I spoke to a lot of the food scientists. Sometimes if I had a bad batch and I really wanted to get to the nitty-gritty of it, of why it happens, I put a food scientist on the call and explained to him what is happening in my process, and they kind of like jumped in and gave me a little bit of information so I can then go back and do several other testing, and one of them might have worked out.
So what did you use as your bind? Since you weren't able to use, obviously you weren't able to use eggs, and just eggs were way too expensive. What was the alternative that you landed on?
So the alternative that I landed on is a combined ingredients of flax meal, psyllium husk, arrowroot. So basically all the ingredients that we're putting today into the product. It's just the matter of like composition and how much of each.
Got it. And why donuts? Of all, I know it was sweetened. Why specifically donuts was the starting point?
So I grew up in Germany, So my mother is German, my father is American, and I grew up in Germany. And my dad came home from work or on the weekends, and he brought home those donuts. So the culture and everything is, the Americans in Germany are known for their donuts. As you see it in the movies, you see it like, in the 90s, it was kind of like a thing, I would say. And so it's just something that is sticking to people's mind. So it was very easy in America, for example, just like launching this product because everybody understood it.
Got it. That makes sense. I mean, certainly. I mean, also donuts are just freaking delicious. But what, when you realize, okay, well, was it hard to find a co-manufacturer that would be able to produce vegan products?
I mean, overall, finding a co-man is always challenging, right? There's so many moving parts that go into it: equipment, space, capacity, relationships, likability. And then, yeah, I mean, it was overall challenging enough, but the vegan aspect, I would say, more and more co-manufacturing facilities are open to it and even having those certification in place.
Cool. Got it. You spent 9 months iterating. What was that first step? And also the first sales channel that you wanted to launch on? I'd imagine co-mans have their minimum order quantities that they need to obviously do in order for them to bring on a new client. How were you able to? What was the process in order to that you did in order to partner with that co-man, make sure that you can actually hit those minimum order quantities, and as well as then when it comes to the actual marketing of the business, what kind of was the main sales channel for you?
Yeah, so I started out with e-commerce, and then took about 9 months to get a product ready for retail expansion. Getting all the certifications in place, manufacturing facility, everything set up and going. But overall, I would say the strategy was always to move into grocery. And the numbers, it can be anything that you are negotiating with the co-man and what makes the most sense in regards to pricing. So once you produce this quantity, your job as a founder or salesperson or CEO is to move this unit around to try to get it sold as soon as possible because you have a expiration on the shelf life.
When you first started, was it only one SKU that you started with, or was it a series of SKUs?
It was a series of SKUs, different flavors, same product. Yeah, we actually had back in the day, we had many more flavors. We did a matcha, we did a black sesame, but you do your testing at the very early stages to see what sticks, and then you narrow it down for what is the biggest demand, I would say, and then you really hone in on these flavors and make those successful.
The flavors, did that offer additional supply chain headache just from different flavors, or was it or not actually very much, just because it was just different flavors of the same product?
I mean, it's always challenging if you're adding a new ingredients that you have to stock up on and packaging materials and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if you can plan ahead to make sure to sell out of it in order to either discontinue it or adding a new flavor that you like to bring in, like making it like a diverse and like an exclusive almost. I think it makes a lot of sense to do that, but you have to plan ahead, right? It has to make sense for you to why you're purchasing these extra ingredients, and you have to do your research on the back end.
What was the launch strategy then for the making sure that you obviously need to sell out and sell through all of your inventory? What were the kind of steps that you took to have a successful launch?
I think it's important that we like number one, obviously marketing, right? You need to make sure you have the buyers on the back end and you can project your inventory accordingly. And then, yeah, sell out of it. That's the important part, and get the flow going, because your co-manufacturing facility is expecting another reorder very soon, and that also depending on what terms you have negotiated. I know brands that are doing every 6 months production run, right? In the baked industry, it's a little bit different. It's where we produce product every month.
That's challenging. You're producing products every month. What's the shelf life as well?
So we currently have a very good shelf life of 8 months refrigerated, which is great. But on the other side, we also have very long lead times in regards to manufacturing the product, getting it now to into distribution centers, and then or into our own 3PL fulfillment centers, right? So there's a lot of transit time, lead times, and whatnot. So if you're looking at the 8 months terms, give or take, we hope to sell the product at least at a 50% shelf life. So the customer has another 3 to 4 or 5 months to consume the product. That's our goal.
Got it. What has been more challenging in your mind? Because I'd love to also talk about the retail side of the business, but for when it comes to demand planning, has it been like the e-commerce D2C channel, or has it been or is demand planning tougher when it comes to the actual grocery retail side? I know you're also in coffee shops, for example, but what from roughly has been more difficult to kind of calculate?
At this current stage, we flipped our model. We used to be 70% B2B and 30% e-commerce, and we just flipped the model to being 70% e-commerce and 30% B2B. That being said, there's times everywhere, probably in the country, where B2B sales are slowing down over the course of the month, right, or the season. And I feel like B2B has really helped keep it steady across the board. So there's one season, for example, which is the summer for us in Planet Bake. We're centered in New York City. And in New York City, a lot of the people are moving out of the city during the summer, and they're spending their weekends in the Hamptons or somewhere else. And so the sales overall are very, they're dipping, right? So e-commerce has helped us nationally be able to ship products to customer and get it to them directly.
What was the reason for the flip from going 70% retail, 30% e-commerce, and now it's 70% e-commerce, 30% retail?
The reason for it and the need for it is capital. So with direct to consumer, you see a faster cash flow on the accounts, meaning you can invest the money. You can put the money back into the business much quicker than if you're waiting on a net 30 days purchase order to be paid to you on, product that you have previously delivered like a month or so ago.
So the actual payment terms from the retailers, that's what's challenging.
Exactly. Yep.
And the actual cash flow perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand how that's challenging with like net 60, net 90, net 120 day terms for the retail side of the business. And that, of course, in D2C or e-commerce, you get paid right away. You actually get paid before you've actually delivered the product. So it's quite different. Did that mean when you transitioned the business, was that pulling out of retailers that you were currently in and keeping the e-commerce business steady or growing it? Or was it staying in the amount of retailers that you were in, but really kind of doubling down on the e-commerce side?
Yeah, so the last one, we kept the accounts, we doubled down on direct-to-consumer e-commerce strategies, putting a new agency in place, and really going all in on branding, messaging, and advertising.
How's that been on advertising? Because it's really interesting, at least some of the discourse that's been happening today with going, oh, you got to go omnichannel, for example. You make your money through grocery, or you make your money in retail versus D2C, where it seems like it's a bit of an opposite approach. Obviously, you are in grocery and retail, and I'm sure that those are phenomenal channels for you. But now, since you're doubling down on the e-commerce side of the business, it's a bit kind of counter to what maybe the general narrative is in market, which again, there's not one way to win or do anything. But a lot of the reason for that trend is because of marketing costs and marketing expenses, right? That brands are continuing to face online. What were some of some strategies that you did to maybe avoid, huge CACs, for example, spending on online to drive for Planet Baked?
Yeah, so our strategy is to actually increase direct to consumer sales month over month. And the reason for that is that later on, when we go into larger box retailers, we are actually moving off the shelf. So people already know the brand. People already know the brand. So we can drive these people that are already purchasing on our website to maybe shop at their local Sprouts Farmers Market or Albertson, right? So, just bringing these people into the stores and driving traffic to get the product moving off the shelf. So this is very important to have everything in place before you really approach these accounts to really say, hey, look at our reach, look at our following, look at our sales track record. We can really pull this off, especially if you're an emerging brand. Nobody's listening to you. So you got to show them you have to show them.
It seems like from the retailer side of it, side of things as well, it seems like you're in lots of different accounts. Instead of how what's the process what it comes to actually like managing those accounts, since it's not, for example, like one huge retailer, it seems like a bit more maybe fragmented. Is that quite challenging?
So in regards to our retailers, we are servicing different channels. Like you said, we are doing coffee shops, we are doing grocery stores, and we are also doing food service, meaning we are selling to universities. And this is what the 2025 strategy will be, is going more into food service, because we believe that number one, younger people are more inclined to be aware of what is inside our foods. So is our target customer. And with Planet Bake and Donuts, we want to create a nostalgic brand for a better generation that eats better food, not just better for you food, but actually good for you.
Yeah, and that makes sense as well to our university, since it seems like it is the younger generation that are becoming a lot more aware when it comes to healthy food, or even if they have certain kind of dietary requirements that they will abide by. So that makes sense in terms of going into universities, and also food, like, and food service. That's interesting. How do you think about, since you're in so many different channels, what's your approach then to pricing, and how do you even think about pricing when it comes to D2C, for example, let's say, and grocery, since those two are obviously they're very, very different, but they're quite different to maybe food service, for example. How do you think about different pricing strategies for each channel?
Yeah, so in regards to price strategy, to be honest, when I started the company, I had no idea in regards to what I'm getting myself into, right? So pricing is very, very sensitive. So we are offering a premium price at a premium quantity, right? Quality, sorry. We're offering a premium price at a premium quality. Our customer is almost expecting that, but we also want to target a different crowd. At the end of the day, we want to go into underrepresented communities. So I am aware that pricing is super sensitive. Overall, we're looking to bring down the price, but until that stage, so it's like a chicken and an egg. You kind of like have to scale to reduce price. So that's what every brand is going towards, like really finding that balance, and hopefully offer a better price with better margins for us as well, in order to grow the business and bring more quality product into the market.
What most heavily affects your margins when it comes to, from like a COGS perspective? Is there, for example, expensive ingredients that goes to the donuts that are really hard to source, and supply is maybe not as plentiful as you'd like? Or is it the particular manufacturing facility that and kind of having these strict requirements?
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts. I would say the strongest factors are ingredients, right? So you're looking at, for example, our donuts are chocolate frosted. Cacao prices went up 900% over the last couple of years. It's going to affect the business. We had to increase our price 2 years ago. I just found out almond prices went up 70 cents. So from last year or the last 7 months, 8 months. So, it's all moving together. And as a small brand, we know we can't keep raising our prices. So at the end of the day, we're going to have to eat the cost.
On the retail side of things, and I know that you're at least right now maybe not as focused on the retail side. It's much more kind of focused on the DTC side. But in your experience, since you're in so many retailers, when you've gone into a new sales channel or a new retailer, first of all, how do you invest in that channel to make sure it's going to be successful? And two, how long do you give it on that channel to become profitable or or to reach the marker that you want to reach before? And if you're not able to reach it, then you pull out.
Yeah, so I started in New York City. I went door to door to all the independent stores, and I have had these customers now for 3 years. So it's all about building those relationships. I went into every store at the beginning and did weekly demos to make sure that the customer tries the product. I went in the morning, evening, different times of the week, just to get everybody involved and let everybody try it. And so once everybody tried it and you kind of established a following there, then you can let it go, and it will move by itself. But you have to really build that relationship with the customer, not just with the store, but with the customer and that person that is walking into the stores in their neighborhood, in their communities on a weekly basis, because that's what you want to establish. You need you need the fans to really like fall in love and stick with it.
Has there been scenarios where you've obviously have done samples, you've introduced your brands to customers of those stores, but at a certain period you feel like, hey, our velocities maybe aren't selling through, it's time to pull out?
Yeah, for sure. So so in New York City at the very beginning, I didn't have the kosher certification, right? So I went into several stores, not many, but a couple. And most of the population there was from the Jewish community. So obviously they're not purchasing your product. So I made the decision to pull out. And, it's okay. There's other communities and channels that work better. And as a business owner, you just need to be very strategic and know when is the right time to pull out before you're investing so much more resources and efforts. If you can just grab a lower hanging fruit.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Also, the reason why you'd pull out in that scenario. Talk to me a little bit about convincing as well retailers. I know local independent shops. I know you've expanded, across the country, and you're in a number of retailers. But what was like this? I know you'd walk in there with, I'd imagine, with Planet Bake products, your donuts. Walk me through how you're able to actually get your products on shelf at these stores, because it is so hard to do. What was your kind of method in order for to actually convince the store to actually carry your products?
Yeah, I have a funny story. So one day, pretty early on, my main account, very early days, I was almost, everybody in New York City heard of West Side Market. So I went into their stores. I pitched to the guy. I was like running around saying, "Hey, is the buy available?" And they're like, "Oh, it's this guy over there." And I went over there. He's like, "No, you have to talk to this guy." So you're going to be moved around inside the store for like 15 minutes until you finally have the right person in front of you, right? So I told him about the product, what we do. We're local. And basically I said, "Here, listen, I give you 2 boxes for free right now. Please, put it on the shelf, see how it's moving." And so I left. I said, "You know what? I can come back later. I'll do a demo or tomorrow," right? So I came back the next day. I did the demo. Nothing was moving. People are just ignoring me left and right. Right? So by the end of the day, I was disappointed. I went home, did some other work. By the end of the day, the buyer calls me. He's like, "Listen, I'm out of donuts." So he's like, "Can you like send me tomorrow morning? I need 6 more cases." Right? So I was like, "Oh, that's great to hear. Like I was really happy about this. But I was so disappointed at first. And then, really getting this call and like finding out that this is actually a moving item and people just didn't want to try it. But people actually at checkout, they grabbed it and purchased it. So yeah, that was a great experience. And we've been moving about 43 units per day in that store.
Wow. That's a lot of units. That's a lot of units.
Yeah. So it was really, very disappointing story at first and turned around and now it's a unicorn. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. My final question for you is, what would you value more, $100 of inventory, $100 of Planet Bake inventory, or $100 cash?
I give you a quick answer to this. Not quick, but $100 cash. I think it means nothing today, right? It goes in and out. It's so quickly spent and gone. But if you have $100 in inventory, you can do many things with it. You can gift it to somebody that is very special to you, or can bring you something else. You never know what's coming out of it. It depends on how you use it. With $100 in cash, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, or you can sell it, right? You can sell it, and
higher price, whatever it is.
Higher price, whatever it is, and then you can of course produce more money than $100 cash. So
exactly.
So for sure, Kathrin, this has been such a blast chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mike. So glad to be here.
And there you have it. It was such a pleasure chatting with Kathrin. Kathrin, thanks again so much for your time. Again, we love sharing stories like Kathrin's on this show that we hope are helpful and valuable for you building your business. We also throw events as well. Check us out at manufacturer.com/events. We throw coffee events around the country. We also throw happy hours and dinners too. So sign up to be in the know of all that's going on. And hopefully we'd love to see you there. Thanks for listening.